System 76's COSMIC Epoch 1, Epoch just being the name they used for a major release, came out about 3 months ago. Since then, there have been a number of minor releases. Currently, we're on 1.0.5. And now, we have a roadmap for the upcoming Epoch 2 and 3. Epoch releases are set about 6 to 8 months apart from each other, so the earliest we're going to see Epoch 2 is sometime around May or June, but it could be a bit later. Keep in mind, sometimes features get delayed, sometimes features get moved forward, so this isn't set, this is going to happen in this release, but it is a roadmap of things they're interested in and things they are working on. Now, I'm not going to cover every single thing here, but I will leave it linked down below and we'll talk about the highlights. Starting from the very first thing, something I don't know how they even released a version 1 without, adds IM and FCITX support. If you don't know, if you're typing in a language that doesn't use the alphabet, for example, you're typing in Japanese, you're typing in Korean, you make use of this software that converts your key presses into the characters you want to type. So, basically, if you needed one of those languages, the COSMIC applications were literally unusable. With System 76 being an American company, I understand how this manages to slip through QA, but this is one of those features which is not, like, up for debate, which is not something where you can kind of be like, oh, well, I want this, I don't want this. Like, no, this is a feature that has to be there. This is like a mouse support. There's going to be some various back-end development changes, some debugging improvements, some hot reloading, massive improvements to performance, and this is the kind of stuff you expect to see anytime you're dealing with a new environment, anytime you're dealing with an experimental new toolkit. Things are going to massively improve in ways that you don't see in a well-established environment. You're not going to see an 80% improvement in something like GNOME because it's had 30 years of development to make those improvements. When it's new like this, yeah, there is still room to do that. We're getting an Applet settings menu, and this is the Figma for it. Basically, the idea is, you have a clock, and maybe you want it to show seconds, maybe you don't, maybe you want 24-hour time, maybe you don't. Things like that. How do you want the calendar to be structured? And various other applets are either going to have settings, or in many cases, settings don't really make sense, but this gives the option to let you go and configure it through a GUI, rather than having to go and, mess around with text files, but that's gonna be in the background, and you're still gonna be able to do that. Clickable notifications. Now, this is something where you can live without. As long as you have notifications working, that's fine. But a lot of notifications do provide a click event that take you to the thing it is notifying you of. Discord, for example, you get a private message, you click the notification, it takes you to that chat. Various applications have something like this. Personally, I'm not a fan of notifications. I basically try to limit them as much as possible. Pretty much the only application I let do it is Kdenlive for my video rendering, but this is something that probably should be there as well. A built-in clipboard manager. This is one of those things which I don't personally use. I just take the thing that is in the current buffer. I don't really care about a clipboard history, but I know a lot of people do make use of a clipboard manager, do expect it to be there, and when it's missing, yes, there are alternatives you can use, there are applications you can install, but it's nice to just have it built in. If you follow Carl on Twitter, you've probably already seen this, but a frosted effect, otherwise known as a window blur. This is for their native COSMIC applications. I believe this effect should be applicable to other things, but I'm not 100% certain there. It's definitely applicable to the COSMIC apps though, and for people that like blur, hey, it's there, it's nice. Yeah, I'm not a blur person anymore. I used to be, but it's nice. Also, a Vulkan renderer. This is obviously important for the frosted effect, but there is some other stuff we'll get to a bit later, which this is very important for. Something I bugged the developers about for a very long time: option to prefer server-side decorations when no client preference is present. So most applications have fallback client-side decorations, basically because GNOME refuses to implement XGG decoration and makes everyone's life more annoying. So anyone that wants their application to work on GNOME has to have something there. Otherwise, you have a Da Vinci situation where on GNOME it doesn't have any decorations and everybody complains it's broken. What this change does is if the application is not preferring them, it just has them there as a fallback, it won't go and use them. This is the way that KDE does it. This is why right now on COSMIC, if you go and run Firefox, it's going to have the client-side decorations. And it is just going to be an option, so if you want to use the client-side decorations instead, you're free to do so. Protocols for COSMIC control, keyboard, mouse, and clipboard. This probably doesn't mean much if you just go and read it, but what this is a way to do input sharing for tools like Synergy and various other things where you might want to control your desktop from another machine. And we also have the file transfer protocol. So if you've noticed with a sandbox application like a Flatpak or a Snap, trying to copy a file into that doesn't really work. So what's happening there is if the sandbox can't see the location the file is located, the copy doesn't work. So this basically deals with that and provides a way to safely transfer the file around. And is something being worked on for Chromium, which means it's going to be in Electron apps, so things like Discord and various other things you might be using. We have some general expansions to the settings, more window management stuff, a firmware manager, which you might think possibly seems weird, but they are selling hardware that has PopOS, and PopOS has COSMIC, so they want some way for people to buy their hardware to upgrade their firmware. Makes a lot of sense. And upgrades and refresh page, and obviously printer settings, which I know no one likes printers, but it's one of those things which also should very much be there. And for the people that really love their wallpapers, live dynamic wallpaper transitions. So video wallpapers, changing your wallpapers between your light and dark mode, changing it between sunrise and sunset. I do not even remotely care about this, but I know multiple people that do this and really like it. Yeah, also some animations for when you go and transition between wallpapers and other stuff. Again, I don't change my wallpaper that often. I'm running this XP wallpaper. I've been running it for the past couple of months, but that's also nice to have. Along with some nice things like if you're running on battery, you can go and pause the video so to not wear down your battery and other little things like that. Just simply OSK on-screen keyboard. This is something which basically every Linux desktop doesn't really do that great. There are okay keyboards in the mobile Linux space, but on the desktop, on like a touchscreen laptop, on a tablet, they're not really that great. Plasma is working on something new. I'm not really sure if GNOME is working on improving anything. As for the other environments, they either don't have them, or they had something and then was never really worked on that much. There are a couple of random third-party options, but this is just not something which has ever really gotten that much work. So, hey, if they make a good keyboard, yeah, I'm all for it. Named Workspaces. I believe this was talked about shipping like a year ago. So, I don't know whatever happened to that. I know there was another issue about this, and I'm pretty sure the code got merged. So, I don't actually know why this is here, but it's good to see it finally happening. And I accidentally hit my spacebar. Toggle to disable cycling from first to last and last to first workspace. So if you, rather than going directly to the workspace, you go next, 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 eventually you'll hit the end of that list. You have the option of stopping at the end or going back to the start. I'm kind of iffy on which one. I usually just jump directly to the workspace. I don't really have that many where it's that big of a deal. But having the option there is generally a good thing, and it's a pretty easy thing to implement. A couple of nice shortcuts like showing your context menu rather than doing a right click, doing it with Alt Space, and obviously this could be rebound to something else, and a show desktop shortcut, which I don't have anything on my desktop, but if you're the kind of person that likes to have, desktop icons, is nice to have. Turning COSMIC Screenshot into a full capture tool. Video recording, markup, showing your cursor, adding a timer delay for screenshots, not really that important, but all of these things basically make it, kind of a kind of equivalent to what KDE has, really, in many ways. For any serious video capture, obviously you're going to use OBS, things like that, but if you're just trying to show a bug that's happening on Cosmic, or, just demoing the environment, making a little capture to show a friend, something like that, everything I'm seeing I've not seen a single change that I think is bad. Getting involved in the COSMIC Qt6 platform theme. This is basically a way to match the theme across your Qt6 applications and your COSMIC applications. This is something which is complicated and difficult because on KDE, there's like 5 different ways to theme an application. This is one of the areas where GNOME actually does do things better, but it's good to do something in this regard. Wacom tablet support. So you can already do things by using Open Tablet Driver, and that's the way that I generally would recommend people do things. Then you don't have to worry about configuring things in every single environment you use, but a lot of people do expect to have something built into the environment as well. A couple of new applications, an image viewer, and a reader. This is for PDF files and other things like that, and for Cosmic Term, more racing stuff, matching your terminal color scheme with the rest of your system, and also a theme editor. One thing I do really hope with that is you can use your system theme as a base to do something custom. Maybe you don't like some of the choices it makes for some of the colors because the amount of colors you pick for your terminal is going to be larger than the amount you pick for Cosmic. So it's going to have to make some guesses about what you want. So if I can then let it do all of the boring stuff and then I tweak it, that would be cool. And that is everything for Epoch 2. Now on to Epoch 3. This is where we can start to see a lot of the bigger changes. There's still going to be smaller ones, but you'll see very quickly. An absolute ton of new animations being worked on. Basically everything you could possibly want animated. And before you ask, someone did already go and open up an issue about disabling the animations, if not for anything else but accessibility. That also should be there and is definitely being considered. It's just not a priority right now. I'm not a big animation guy. Yeah, I have this, but I don't really like a lot of the things like fading in windows and everything being animated, but I know it's a thing people do for modern desktops now. Obviously, the Vulkan renderer helps out with this, but there is a reason it was specifically added. HDR and Nightlight. Both of these are going to be a thing. I am genuinely surprised that HDR is being something considered this early on. I really, really do hope to see this. I don't have an HDR screen, but I am so happy to see that HDR is now just becoming a standard on Linux. Built-in gamepad configuration. Most of the games I play are on Steam, so Steam has its own configuration, but if you're doing in various other things, nice to have there. Session restoration. This is something which every Linux desktop agrees is a good thing. They even agree on the protocol. This is a rare thing to see in the world of Wayland. The issue is there's a lot of pieces to make it happen. You got to make a lot of toolkit changes, a lot of environment changes, a lot of applications need to be updated to modern toolkits that have those changes, but this is something that is coming to everything. Not just fake restoration where you just reopen the window, full session restoration, and also SVG cursors. So right now, basically only KDE and Hyperland have this. Traditionally, cursors were a rastered image, so if you increase the size of the cursor, you'd start to see the pixels. But when you make a cursor, oftentimes they are made as a vector graphic. So rather than loading a rastered version that has like a bunch of set sizes, what if we just loaded the vector? And that's what this is. And what this also allows you to do is infinitely scaling cursors. So if you want to have your cursor be, 300 pixels high, you can do that, and it still looks just as clean as at the smaller size. This does have some limitations. Applications that expect to see the older X cursor format aren't going to see the new SVG cursor, so there's like this fallback where they include the old versions anyway, so those applications can use those. It's not a perfect solution, but it's basically the best you got. Fairly small thing, hot reloading with applets, some general applet improvements, a mounted devices applet, so if you plug in a, USB thumb drive, for example, that device is going to be listed, and various other things like that. A bunch of big theming improvements, custom shaders. Now, look. Shaders are not fun to write. I'm sure somebody enjoys them, but I'm also sure that somebody else is going to make something cool with them. I mentioned theme matching before with the terminal, but there's a bunch of other stuff being added as well. Auto match accent of the desktop wallpaper, auto match theme to the desktop wallpaper, desktop sound theme, hardware integration, launch LEDs, System 76 laptop LEDs, and potentially open RGB support, which is probably something that I'm surprised it's not already there, to be honest. Cosmic themes bundled with a wallpaper. So now you can distribute everything all together, which makes sense if you're going to have theme matching with a wallpaper. You should be able to make a theme that ships a wallpaper. Drive mounting at boot. So this is just a way to automatically go and mount things without going and doing it properly and putting it in your FS tab. Or it goes and modifies your FS tab for you. Which is nice, but you can just modify the file by hand. It's not that hard. Better yet, you can actually use your terminal to generate it for you, and then you don't have to write it by hand. Per application sound control. You can already do this with things like Pulse Mixer. I don't have any audio playing right now, but they're going to have it in the GUI settings as well. Honestly, I'm really impressed by what's been happening with Linux audio settings. Basically, everything you want to do nowadays is getting a sensible interface. Customizable touchpad gestures. I don't use a laptop right now, but that's something that should be there. I do hope that also includes touch screen gestures for those 5 people that use a touch screen on Linux. Fingerprint registering. As I said, I don't use a laptop right now, but if you do and you have a fingerprint reader and you want to use the fingerprint reader, it's nice to have that in the GUI rather than going to have to go and modify it from the command line, which you can do, but it's a pain and nobody wants to do that. Also, power button options. You might think, what options would I want for a power button? I want it to power off my system. Some people, though, want the power button to go and sleep the system, and the only way to power it down is to do so through the interface. Not for me, but it is a nice thing to have there. Or you might want to go and just fully disable the power button. A bunch of nice accessibility stuff. So with the SVG cursors, you also get custom cursor sizes, mobility options, sticky keys, slow keys, bounce keys, and mouse keys. I still don't know what sticky keys and bounce keys or slow keys are, but I'm sure somebody finds them very important. Flash notification. So when you get a notification, flash the screen, and live captions. In the Cosmic File Manager, Miller columns, this is kind of like the Apple style columns, and split view. Also some more new applications. Cosmic keyring, so finally I can get rid of the GNOME keyring, and the Cosmic System Monitor. For the Cosmic Store, adding in the option to download system packages. Now, my concern with this is when things go wrong, a lot of these GUIs do a very bad job at explaining what went wrong and then how to fix it. Because usually what that fix involves is going to the terminal, the thing you are here specifically to avoid. I don't know if this is a good addition, and I don't think it's an addition that others should do either. Now, of course, you don't have to use this, and I'm not going to use this. The problem is the people that tend to use GUI package managers tend to be people that are new to Linux that don't know how to fix problems. They're the people that need to be using the terminal to know how to fix the problems. Of all of the changes I've seen, this is the only one I'm a little bit wary of. I know I'm in the minority here. I know that all of the desktop developers disagree with me, but I don't think this is a good direction to go. And lastly, we have Cosmic Edit and a bunch of nice features to make it a good text editor. Navigation tree features, built-in spell check, I don't know how that wasn't there before, LSP support, so if you want to program in Edit and you want to actually, have your programming information there, You now have that. File and folder management in the navbar, a resizable navbar, and splits. I'm still going to use VS Codium. I know some people really, really like using Kate, and this probably brings it mostly in line with Kate. Honestly, the next release of Cosmic look really, really exciting. As I said earlier, nothing is set in stone. Something may release earlier, but it could also be delayed. I don't know. We won't really know until things actually ship, but what I can say is Cosmic actually has a really good roadmap and clearly has their goals set in what seems to be a mostly good direction. There are some things I can slightly nitpick about design and the way that window management works and things like that, but I think overall, the desktop is moving in a direction I mostly like. So let me know your thoughts down below. What are you most excited for? What do you hope they add? Is there anything that is not on the roadmap that you're really excited about or really hope that gets changed? I would love to know. So, if you liked the video, go like the video. If you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe, Starlink Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and honestly, Cosmic's looking good.